She would also like it. The work that Sue has done has been carried on for 50 years by Sue and other people. In fact, not too long ago in the Alpena News, if you read Looking Back in Alpena, it was Sue Maxwell at a Negwegon Park meeting with the DNR 50 years ago.
Wow.
So she was at this work a long time, well over 50 years. League of Women Voters has also, I brought some materials along. I'm not going to read them to you, but I do want to point out that League of Women Voters acts on positions that have been taken previously to action being taken, and unless they have a position, they don't speak out as a league. So the U.S. position, League of Women Voters U.S., says promote an environment beneficial to life through the protection and wise management of natural resources. The Michigan position says supports preserving and enhancing the environmental integrity of the Great Lakes St. Lawrence River ecosystem. Priority is the attainment and maintenance of high water quality standards throughout the basin with emphasis on conservation and pollution prevention. The local league position is much longer, so I won't read all of that. But in part, and this speaks particularly to this park, the league would like excluded from the park any facilities that would alter the shoreline, motorized vehicles, except those used for maintenance, modern camp facilities such as hot and cold running water, flush toilets, electricity, and would limit roads to adequate parking at the park entrance. If water is provided, it should be hand pumps. And this was also a unanimous concern for proper waste disposal. And then, as recent as 2019, Sue was still at work on this, and her report to the league at the end of the year in 2019 is about 4 paragraphs long, but it also says the DNR and Friends of Negwegon continue. Sue Keller is here, Friends of Negwegon, continue to work together to protect, preserve, and promote the park. A project to repair and replace the boardwalks has been funded and will be done when weather permits. A video showcasing the special features of Negwegon, Rockport, and Thompson Harbor parks has been considered by NERTH committee, and steps are being taken to find funding to pursue the projects. The NERTH committee was the new name for the Negwegon committee, and Sue continued to serve on the NERTH committee. So with that, I'm going to introduce someone who probably doesn't need an introduction to most of you, but Eric is our DNR representative. So come on over.
All right, well, when I first heard that the league wanted to put this in, I thought it was wonderful because I really liked Sue Maxwell, and I'd met her through the NERTH committee. Sue attended the NERTH committee meetings after its main purpose was completed, and Sue Keller can speak on behalf of that. The general management planning that was done, that was kind of a first step for the department with parks facilities, having that management plan that you put together with the help of all those who should be involved, whether it's the League of Women Voters, if it's your friends' organizations, the general public. That planning had not ever really been done to that level, so she was kind of a key person to help with that. And even after the main mission of that general management planning was complete, which the general management plan for this park, of course, is basically no major development. So that was the fight, you know, for the history. So that's a roadmap I have to use as the unit supervisor, and the division has to use, and the department has to use when it comes to Negwegon, which is wonderful, because as we all know, as people change in our division and in our department and in the state, the mindset of the Department of Natural Resources that I work for can change. So now we have this plan in place, and she was a big part of that. But even after that main mindset of figuring out that general management plan came to play, and we sort of were debating on what to do with the NERTH committee and how to move forward with it. She was there and she was active at every meeting. She still always attended, and a lot of the folks that had attended as the meetings, you know, were really about the planning, had then sort of kind of walked away because the mission wasn't the same. She was still at every single one of those meetings. And it was great because I came in as a new supervisor in 2011. So people like her I could learn from to find out kind of the direction of how things went. And I'd worked here under Dan Mullen, if anyone remembers his name. And he was at the park for about 20 years as supervisor. And I learned a lot from him, but folks like Sue Maxwell, you know, helped steer me as to kind of what the mindset was and some of the history. And I think I've actually found this big monster plan of development here at this park, which is just unbelievable they're planning to do that. But, you know, having her around really helped keep up with that. So that was a wonderful thing that she stuck with it. And the best thing about Sue to me was that she was always willing to work with the department. Whether it was just me, obviously we had a good speaking relationship, and she was friendly and always said hello, and we chatted in between the actual, you know, times of the meetings. But, you know, she really just kind of helped keep everything flowing in that sense in the NERTH committee, and, you know, wanted to keep it moving to help protect it. So she always, you know, appreciated that. And then the other thing too is, an interesting in the thought of the relationship to the League of Women Voters. If anyone remembers the time I came out to visit and got to do sort of like a presentation on behalf of the DNR and Negwegon for the League in Alpena. Well, Sue invited me, and I actually picked her up at her home and took her up. And oh my gosh, coming into that meeting, going in with her, I felt like I was a VIP. It was wonderful. You know, it's just so interesting to walk around with her, and everybody wanted to chat with her and talk with her. And, you know, it was like she was the VIP, and she was bringing you to this meeting to be the VIP to kind of talk about what you had to talk about. So I really appreciated that. In other words, she always made me feel comfortable when you know, as I was there, or even in these meetings. She was always a good person to work with the department. You know, I mean, I know she fought it on many fronts, which I, you know, heard years ago. Mindsets were different, you know, the mindsets of what the division or department wanted to do. But I never got that feeling from her, that feeling of, you know, you're the bad guy. 'Cause in some cases, sometimes we seem to be, but never got that feeling from her. It was great. It was wonderful. So I'm glad we were able to do this and put this in. And, you know, when I heard the news, it was sad. You know, myself, Colleen at the park. Does anyone know Colleen Higgins? Who works at the park and has been there. I mean, when we both heard that news, it was like, oh man, you know, it hit. That's probably the first time I've had someone who I've worked with somehow, even in a limited time frame, an outside organization, here they pass away, and I was like, oh boy, you know, who's gonna fill her footsteps? So I'm glad that the league came forward and wanted to do something. And, you know, with this sense, you know, as Sue wouldn't want a huge developed, you know, 25-foot statue of herself. You know, I think this is a good thing to put out here for the people. You know, this will last a long time. It'll be here. People will be able to see and read the name. It's a nice break, but yet it's you know, here in this area of the park that's the main developed part of the park. This is the most development you really see here. So I think that's nice that it was determined we'd put it here. So, and other than that, you know, I'm glad everyone came out, and we were happy to be able to help put this out. But it was the league that put everything together, came up with this plan. We just, you know, put it in, and as soon as it was noted to do it, I'm like, yep, we can do something. So I'm glad that everyone decided to kind of move forward on this. So thank you.
Thank you. Eric Ostrander, he is in charge of not only this park, but also Harrisville.
Yep, the Harrisville State Park as well. Yep.
And next I want to introduce to you Bruce Maxwell and Laura Maxwell. Come on up if you'd like to say something.
Come to the bench.
You may approach the bench now.
Well, I'd like to thank Pauline for being so kind and volunteering to shepherd this little dedication today. She was my mom's best friend. And she and my mom worked on project after project after project together for the league over the years. And my mom was always delighted to work with Pauline. So it's very appropriate and very touching that Pauline is running this today. I'd like to thank all of you for coming out today on behalf of Laura and the rest of my mom's family. It's very nice of you to come out to celebrate my mom and to remember her and to acknowledge what she did at this park. And of course, I'd like to thank the league. My mom never expected any kind of benches or anything, especially not a 25-foot one, so thank God. But it's a very nice way to remember her and to honor her. And I sure appreciate the league's thoughtfulness in doing that. The league, of course, is an incredibly important organization. My mom was a proud and active member for 52 years.
Yes, you are.
Up until the last few months of her life, she was active in league. And she met some of her best friends there, and she believed very much in what the league did. And the league does a lot of things, but one of the things it does is it supports democracy.
Yes.
It supports registering people to vote, and it gets out and actively does register people to vote. It educates voters so that they can make wise decisions and understand who the candidates are and what the issues are, and so they can make their own judgments. And the league does so much more, but that is a critical part of its role and something she very much supported. The league obviously is more important today than ever before in our lifetimes.
Yes, it
Ever
is.
before. And thank goodness it's here.
Amen.
Here and in all across our country. This is a very active league group here, but there are active league groups everywhere, and much to the country's benefit. Get things written down. My mom would want me to acknowledge that there are many other people who are actively involved in Negwegon back 50 years ago and today. The list is way too long for me to go through now, but two people I'd like to mention specifically. Jim Apsey, who was a teacher at Alpena High School, biology teacher, who first raised the alarm about the plans to develop Negwegon and first got the ball rolling on efforts to oppose that development. Jim was a critical player in this whole thing. And the other one is Doris Stout. Some of you may recognize that name. She was a key member of the league for many years, worked with my mom on this campaign. And Doris was a huge support to my mom and very helpful to her, especially when they went to meetings. Doris helped keep my mom a little bit under control. Because every once in a while they go into these meetings, back in the days before people were a little bit more educated. And every once in a while they get a response like they did at one meeting where the meeting took a break and they overheard some gentlemen talking about them and referring to them as little old ladies in tennis shoes.
Yes, we've heard that one
That was
before.
a bad mistake. Because that made them angry, of course. It also made them much more
Leaky
determined.
ladies.
And obviously they ultimately prevailed. You always have to look out for the little old ladies in tennis shoes. They are a force to be reckoned with. That was the case with my mom and Doris. The ironic thing about my mom's involvement with this park for 50 years is that she rarely came here. She didn't try to save this park because she thought, oh, it's mine and I want to keep everybody else out. She saved this park and protected it because she thought everybody should have access to a place like this. That this is a unique place in Michigan, perhaps in the whole country, and that it deserves to be protected, and that people should be able to come out here in peace and enjoy this place and revel in its wonders and appreciate what it is and have a chance to recharge and regroup, which we all need so much these days. And that's what she was about. It wasn't about protecting it for Sue Maxwell or her friends or anything. It was about getting everybody in here. And she did want some development to happen, as it has happened. She wanted people to be able to get in here. She's very happy. She did, yeah, she did. And the DNR has been very helpful, and the Friends of Negwegon has been very helpful in putting together trails and signage so that people can come in and understand what they're seeing a little bit and stay safe, since this is a big place. And that has been just a wonderful thing. So I think probably the lesson I get from what my mom did is we can't have much influence on the international level as much as we'd like to these days. And we don't have much role at the national level, and really not at the state either. But at the local level, people can make a difference. And people are in Alpena. Laura and I are moving back here, partially because we like the kind of people that there are here. And we can make a difference in our local communities. We can make them better places for everybody. Not just for some people, but for everybody. That's what my mom's Negwegon project was about, and that's what she was about. Thanks.
Laura will be occupying the space that Sue occupied on the shore.
Yeah.
So we can still sneak in there and dip in the water.
Thank you, Pauline.
You're welcome. There are a few other people who would like to say a word or two. Florence?
Well, I just want to say thanks to Eric and for his people for making this possible. I mean, I think it's obviously very good that we can work together as individuals and work with the government and make things happen for the best. I don't know what I was supposed to say up here. I mean, I knew Sue. I came in probably early 1970, and we were in various groups together. But I guess the one story that I can share when I think of Sue, obviously we were both in league for a long time. We were at a lot of meetings, and every time we would discuss having a public meeting, some people would say, and I was probably one of them that thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have some coffee and cookies? And those of you who know Sue, she didn't like that idea at all. We were not those kind of women that we were up to serious business, and I don't think there was ever a time at the public meetings that we offered coffee and cookies. I always had to laugh when a new person came on board, and the minute someone brought that up, I knew that we were. So that's my story, and obviously, yes, she was wonderful.
Sue, as Bruce mentioned, didn't come here often, but she did come here a time or two to help with invasive species and also to help do some search that Sue wants to tell you about.
And I don't know whether it was we had a project to control invasive species and to survey for invasive species, and we worked with Huron Pines, Friends of Negwegon, and we had a big grant. It was a 2-year grant. We were looking for places where in crayfish burrows where Heinz emerald dragonfly, which has been sighted here, but they wanted to see if they could find the egg larva, and they lay eggs in crayfish burrows. So as you see this, and it's all nice and groomed, but we started walking east and west through the park and doing these surveys. And people would come out and help. We had times when they could come during those 2 years. And it was like you were in, African jungle. I mean, it's so thick, so wet. I mean, you just timed how you were up to here in water within 10 minutes of this whole process. And I didn't always know who was coming the days that we worked. And one day, who rolls in but Carl Buckner and Sue Maxwell. And I think Sue was 80 years old at the time.
Probably was.
She had her boots, she had everything, and she walked through this really thick brush with the rest of us, spent the entire day, and we all came back here at the end of the day. We came here for lunch, and then at the end of the day, and you're really tired. Just walking is bad enough. And you had these tablets, you had to record stuff, and it was fun in a sort of strange way. So we came back here, and everybody was tired and just kind of peeling off and decompressing, and what does Carl say? Anybody want a beer? And it's a hot summer buggy day. There's that one. So that's my favorite story of Sue. I admired her for her civic engagement. She and Jim Epsey, he wrote a hand-written note to me about the late 60s when he was engaged in trying to stop a development, and then of course Sue in the 70s. I first came here in the early 70s. I taught, so I intersected with Sue during my career, when she worked at the MEA office. I intersected again through Negwegon, through the management plans. She encouraged to get a friends organization to protect the park, which we did establish. Again, and you're working with Huron Pines, there was Sue at the lead meeting with the rest of us. So I was fortunate. Oh, and then on the Community Foundation, she mentored me through that. She was my mentor when I served on that. So her legacy of civic engagement is such a wonderful model. And you all know that, I'm not telling you anything new. And we so appreciated her spirit and her willingness to look at the positive side, and we can do this, and we will fight if we have to. And so this is a park that's over 4,000 square miles. Acres, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not a math girl. And probably 10 miles of shoreline, and it's all wild. And so Friends of Negwegon, basically, we want to keep it wild forever. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
I want to recognize Heidi Schaefer.
Hey.
Hi. Heidi is representing herself, but also representing Pat and Jim Schaefer, who couldn't be here today. She said they might roll in later if they get back from Petoskey in time.
Yeah.
But Pat and Jim walk this area often.
This is one of my favorite places,
Yeah.
and I didn't know all the history about this. I didn't know there was a threat of development. I remember when I was a teenager, we used to ride back here on our dune buggies and stuff, but we shouldn't have, I'm sure. Now I'm the soil erosion officer for Antrim County, and I do a lot of work with Huron Pines, and we have invasive species stuff that we do, and so I just want to thank all of you, and I would have loved to have thanked Sue for protecting this really incredible place. It's an amazing spot, so it is one of our favorite places to hike.
Thank you, Heidi. Doris
Yes.
is our president of League at
You're
the
okay.
current time, and she wanted me to mention that before you leave, she does have those governmental petitions to sign.
Promote the Vote 2022. If you haven't signed it yet, I brought extras. I can get any county you want. So
So be sure and see Doris before you go. And there are a couple more people that contacted me that I don't want to forget. Okay, Vernie was one. Vernie Nethercutt could not be here today. She wanted to say something, but mainly what she wanted to say was what Eric already said, that oftentimes she would go to meetings and be on opposite sides of the group, whoever she was with. Doris Doubt in particular, they were on opposite sides to start with and came together and worked together. Another one that Bernie didn't mention, but that I'd like to mention, early meetings on Negwegon, Don Elliott was involved. Now, some of you remember Don Elliott. He was quite a character. And when he talked about the ORVs and that they wanted to stop the ORV traffic in here, he said he was certain that the Yamahas and Kawasaki's were the Japanese revenge. So that's what his comment was. Ron Menego worked with Sue quite often at the education office, and he's here today. Ron is also, didn't know if he'd make it today because he had 2 meetings prior to coming here. He's a young chicken.
Yeah.
He flits around to a lot of meetings in town. Did you want to say anything, Ron?
She was one of my best friends,
Yeah.
and I met her in 1971.
wow.
Carl, did you want to say anything today?
Well, there's a lot of memories
before he's come back, I told Bruce that I didn't formally meet the Maxwells, but I remember seeing them first time, and it was at a public hearing what they were gonna do with Negwegon. And I was impressed with their ability to speak, and Bruce was about 10, and he gave this dynamic speech that I'll never forget. And, you know, it was all done, we were all nervous at first that it was gonna be just a big RV from here to South Point, but in the end, I think Bruce remembers everybody got, no, we don't want the park. But it was a blessing in disguise because they got control of those ORVs. They were tearing up between here and the village of Black River. And it just definitely had a happy ending. And of course, Sue was a big part of all of this. So we thank the Maxwells.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak up? Yeah, Kay.
Well, actually, somebody asked me to speak.
Good.
Otherwise, I'd be standing back there. And I'm honored to speak about Sue, who I think I have known since 1968, when Gordon and I came back to Alpena, where Gordon and Bill taught together at the high school. And so some of my best ideas come to me in the middle of the night, and so this one I'm thinking, oh dear, I'm nervous about talking, and I'm gonna just use the alphabet and go down and describe Sue the way I knew her with all the letters of the alphabet. I'll try to be really quick. Sounds like it's gonna take forever, doesn't it? A, activist, naturally. Not only here, but I've marched with her in Alpena by the college for gun control, for climate change, lots of things like that. So, and B, Billy and Bruce. Probably, maybe Bruce sometimes first, then Billy. Maybe, no, always Billy, okay. C, complimentary. She would tell you if you look good. She would just exclaim about the party that you had. She would give you compliments. Sometimes I hold back on saying things, but she did not. Democrat, D. E, elegant. F, fashionable. G, gracious, and I know that you know that she was gracious. H, hoarder, in a good way. Books, hoarding books. Clothes, shrimp. She had a lot of shrimp in that freezer. I, interested. J, joyful. K, killer instinct. I think I've been told that when she plays a bridge with people. L, laugh. It was wonderful to hear her laugh, and she would laugh at things you said, and I mean, I like that a lot. M, mom and mother-in-law to wonderful Laura. N, I had left N out for some reason on my list, and I don't know why, and isn't it weird?
Negwegon.
And I thought, what can N be? Naps. She knew how to take a nap. She would get her pajamas on to take a nap. I thought that was odd, but that's a nice relaxing way to take a nap. But Negwegon, of course.
Yeah.
O, opera. With a total length of about 15 hours. She liked the Wagner opera, and I'll screw it up if I say it. Der Ring des Nebelungen. Anyway, she and Bill went to that opera. It's 15 hours depending on how fast or slow the orchestra goes. P, patriot. Q, quaint. She was unusual in her driving abilities. She was quaint in her own way, driving her car. S, stubborn. And Shakespeare. She loves Shakespeare, but don't mess around with it. Don't have military vehicles come on stage for Macbeth. Don't have a gay wedding in the beginning of Midsummer Night's Dream. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but don't do it. T, theater. U, upbeat, even till the end. V, voluptuous. When I was first here, I was pretty young. We went to a teacher party. I was so shy. She had on a red dress. She came over to the table, bent over, and this dress went way down here. I'm sure I had a turtleneck on. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong place. W, wine. She did like wine. X, xenial, and I had to look that up, showing hospitality to guests and strangers. Y, youthful. You would never believe her age. It's impossible. And Z, zest for life, which she had up until the end, and it's something that we all need to take to heart and be like Sue.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Okay, to kind of close it off, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege to take you back some time. And I don't know the year of this newspaper article. It says May 16th on it, Alpena News. Negwegon beauty is the issue. On Tuesday evening, 7:30 at the DNR room of Alpena Community College, the fate of Negwegon State Park once again comes before the Citizens Committee. I see two major issues at stake. Shall this stunningly beautiful tract remain essentially natural, or shall it suffer the extensive development of bulldozers and asphalt, followed by the shattering commotion of throngs of tourists? Shall a minority, that is the Citizens Committee, prevail, or will democracy truly apply and the majority public opinion determine the outcome? Although the first issue concerns many, the second concerns all. I have attended many of the Negwegon meetings and am pleased that public input has always been permitted. According to my interpretation of citizen comment, nearly 80% of the people oppose maximum camping, maximum development of Negwegon, yet startlingly, the committee continues to vote 12-1 in favor of total development. If not now, at least sometime in the future. Questions abound. However, one dominates. Will this small committee and the legislator listen to and abide by the public mandate? If the answer is yes, then the government of, by, and for the people shall not perish. If the answer is no, then a cruel deceit is being perpetuated against those of us people who think our voices matter. Robert Buckner. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you all being here.
Well done.
Please take time to see Doris if you want to sign the petition, and stay and visit and explore the park if you'd like to. It'd be fun to do on a day like today. Thank you.
The rock over